Hit it, boy. Oh, we're live. Wow, there's André Pradtke on the screen right now. Time oriented. Oh my gosh, I need to be on the screen with somebody. My friend Niels. Hi, hello, Niels.
Hello, Ryan. I'm happy we are doing our 81st episode today. And
Yes, 80,
yeah,
81, 9 times. We are doing our ninth episode, as I would like to say. And unfortunately, we don't have the moniker, the numeric identifier up in the upper left hand corner. So this will be an evergreen episode. So no matter when, no matter how. I am here. I'm excited, and we are here with what you've mentioned that you very pointedly mentioned that this is the first time we have had one of your Red 42 clients here on BetaCodex 5.
yes.
And I think that this would be the first of many, hopefully, we'll say.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what I would like to do, we shall introduce this client. Would you like to say a word about our mystery guest who we've already said his name before?
I can say that the guy we are about to talk with in this episode, our special guest, André Pradtke, he's a wonderful person, a delightful guy, a systems theorist, one of the smartest people I've ever worked with, I must say. And yeah, and we've been through a lot together already, as we would just talk about that. So here he comes, André Pradtke. Welcome to the show. Welcome to BetaCodex Live. Ta-da!
Thank you very much. I'm quite surprised that it's the first time. I'm the first client on the show.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's what I wrote. I posted this on LinkedIn. It's the first time we have a client of mine on the show, and yes, I also wonder why that is in a way. But it's certainly a distinction.
But at least there's a proof there are clients.
Exactly. Finally, we are.
I promise I'm authentic. I'm an authentic client.
Yeah. You in the age of AI, not sure if we should ever believe that, but yes. I think we
could lift the newspaper of today, perhaps. So
yeah.
there's
I
even
think
more
it took us 15 or 20 episodes to have the first guest on BetaCodex Live. I'm not quite sure how long it took. It took a long time, and yeah, it shows how discreet we are, yes, and never bringing about clients.
Discretion. We keep those clients close to the vest, right? So
that is true. That is true. There's another client I talked from Austria. Andre, I have never met him, but it's a company that Silke most of all has worked with, and I always keep pressing her. When does this guy Christian, his name, when does he come on the show? And we kind of never did it, but maybe in a few episodes. So first of all, Andre, good that you showed up.
And why don't we go into Andre? One of the whole, who are you? Why are you here? And what is your purpose on the planet? How about that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, that's a very good question. Niels already told something about me. So I'm his client. He told that I'm smart, which is very nice. I hope I can live up to that now, to the expectation he brought in the world right now. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a company which is situated in Bochum. It's in the middle of Germany. It's a small software company with quite a big impact in Germany. We do software for workforce management, which is, for example, duty rostering, I think is the English word, like shift planning and parts of the payroll process and stuff like that. And we do that for hospitals, for nursing homes, so especially, or for fire stations, especially for social companies. We have around about 60 persons in our team. And important information is, which hints why I'm here, or hints at why I'm here, that we did a beta transformation nearly exactly 13 months ago. So 13 months ago, we started working in the cell structure design. and we of course do it since then. And before we had the transformation process, and afterwards we also did many things. Perhaps we talk about some of them. There's one thing we talk about for sure, and that is time-oriented software development, which is something we started. When did we start it, Niels? I think it was 4 months ago.
In August,
5,
6 months ago, yeah.
6 months ago, yeah. So it has
2020.
also been a while, and we achieved great results, and gathered a lot of data about the concept and how it can be implemented, what could go wrong, of course, what shouldn't go wrong, and how to cope with it. That I think are some topics we should cover today. And what is my purpose in the world? That's a very good question. What is my purpose? I think my purpose in the world, if it goes well, is to make the improbable probable.
Why are you saying that, André?
Because the last thing, because I think that every...
Why did you say you make the improbable probable? Why? What makes you say that?
It's because whatever happens is somehow improbable. So always, there will always happen something. But if you want to have, if something particular should happen, it's very improbable, and that I think relates to the professional life as well as to the private life. So my son, for example, is a very improbable thing, and somehow I made it probable.
Yes.
Or my family situation, or my house, and I think the same is true for the company.
I can say that this is an expression that we have used a couple of times, right?
It's not exactly my own. It's something that I think goes back to, I suppose, Niklas Luhmann. Was it Hans von Förster? I don't know.
It sounds a bit like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, there's the story of the flower pot that turns into a whale because somebody turns on a device called the unlikelihood drive or something like that.
Oh, the improbability drive. It was the improbability
drive. Exactly. Yes, the improbability.
Yeah.
And the flower pot becomes a whale. Yeah. So
here we are. And something that was improbable was the two of you meeting. I would like to find out how that improbability became probable. How did you meet? What brought the two of you together, and how did this whole thing get born?
I can perhaps show it. Just give me a minute. I think you can still hear me, because I talked about that a few days ago. And what brought us together in the first place,
I have no idea what
I had to go to my bookshelf. Is this book? Can you see it?
Okay.
Organized for Complexity.
Yeah, organizing. I don't know the English title.
Organized for Complexity.
Organized for Complexity. Someone gave me this book, and I read it, and there was kind of a wow effect. It matched my thinking about organizations, my professional and personal, but it exactly didn't match the way my company was organized. So there was this book was very close to me and was very far away from the company, and the effect was that Niels and I had a first online. It was back then. It was kind of a product. You could book short online sessions, and we had such an online session, and afterwards nothing happened. So it took a while, to get started. I think it was nearly a year, and then we met and then perhaps it says something about me, and then it took another while, and then we started working. And then the process really gained some momentum, which is quite typical for the open space beta process, because it also is time oriented. So if you decide to start it, you will quickly notice things happening, and you will quickly notice that you have to do a lot of things, like inviting to open spaces and etc.
So you read the book, you got excited by the book, inspired by the book, reached out to Niels, had a conversation. It blew you over with his charisma and his inspirational ideas for what might happen.
Somehow, yeah.
Somehow that happened, and
if
then
you break the ice, this happens.
Yeah, well, you come into a relationship, you develop a sense of trust.
I think we had a very good online session, by the way. It was a 2-hour session. The format is called Get Unstuck. People can still book it on our website. And André and his colleague Marco,
I can recommend it. It's a great start.
Yeah, and it was very strange. I think we had the best conversation. After that, I told Silke, "Hey, I just had an amazing conversation with 2 people from Bochum and so on, and then for a year nothing happened. So I had kind of forgotten about them, and then they came back, and we really got going very quickly. That was all in 2024.
Yes.
The transformation happened in second part.
The transformation happened in 2024.
And so for 13 months, as André correctly said, they are beta, decentralized relative targets performance system, right, André? Am I right?
Yeah. So we established all the infrastructure. We did some organizational hygiene, and so we get rid of many things, like 4,812 Excel sheets and sales funnels and the concept of departments and stuff like that, which was a big relief. And we even had a kind of free-floating time of working, where we only worked in the structures we developed in the open space, in the first open space beta, in the first open space. Sorry.
Okay, I don't remember that. What do you mean? Maybe
we only had zigzags and streams.
Oh, that's correct.
We didn't have departments anymore, so we didn't have department leaders. We defined some important work streams to switch into the cell structure design, and we designed so-called zigzags. So mini packages of work, which had to be done very quickly, like establishing the fast close or ensuring that during this period we still get new clients, for example, and so kind of sales process, but completely different. And so for the essential stuff, we had zigzags, and for the transformation stuff, we had so-called work streams. And
it was like
that was
1 or 2 months, right? Maybe 2 months.
For you have to differentiate, I think. Some of them lasted for the whole 90 days, and some of them didn't, because we decided, or you proposed that we start in the cell structure quite early. So we started working the cell structure design after 30 days, 45, I don't remember. In the middle of the transformation period, because the department structure was so rigid that it seemed to be a good idea to start working in the new design quite early, so that people can get used to it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reminding me of all of these details. Yes.
Very, very good and productive idea. And otherwise, perhaps I'm quite sure that we would otherwise have much more problems than with this It was a deviation from the plan because we didn't plan it from the beginning, but this was a brilliant idea.
It's a great. Thank you for bringing this up, André. We never talked about this after the transformation.
I talked about it last week in the short speech I gave.
Yeah, it's very nice, I think, because it's a beautiful example of that how many variations of open space beta there are. You know, sometimes I even do not have the awareness that there isn't one way to do it, but there are many variations in the 90 days. Especially how to do
and
things.
It was also a consequence of observations we made during the process.
What's coming to mind to me as a curiosity is that you have how many individuals, how many people do you have within the boundary of your company? How many employees do you have?
Around about 60
members. 60? 60.
60.
Okay.
60.
60. So that's you had about what about 60 divided by 7, about 9 cells total. Niels, is that about right? Total of about 7 people per.
I think there are 10 cells.
There are 10 cells right now, so we have 2
8 in the periphery
central cells and 8 periphery cells. Yeah.
I also wish the company was growing already, but in terms of people and personnel, but that can start any moment now. I think Pradtke is ready to grow again, right?
Yeah, we have to grow. In fact,
well, there's also something about there's growth and there's development. You know, are you growing in terms of with the same number of people doing more for more people, generating more revenue with the people you have? But then again, there's how are we growing our capabilities and to do that?
There was a vast development in performance on the basis of the established team, and now we urgently have to start to get new team members. So growth is an obligation right now.
Yeah, maybe we can mention that when we started working together, André, you had the performance wasn't all too stable. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
What kind of performance problems you had and how the situation is now? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I think it's worth mentioning.
Of course. We had a very unstable revenue stream. So we had parts of our revenue stream were quite stable because we have long-term contracts with our clients, but other parts were quite unstable because it comes from new business, and new business in our area is something which doesn't happen every day. It's not like a clothing store where you sell T-shirts every hour. It's the projects are quite big, so it takes a time until you acquire them, and which makes the revenue stream unstable naturally, of course, and which may make some years very exciting. At least. So there were years when we made 50% of our revenue in the last 2 months, for example. And of course, you never can be sure that this happens. So you always have to think about what could you do if it shouldn't happen, which establishes a special kind of work rhythm. So you always have to be aware of what happens next, and do you need a trick in order to gain some revenue? Do you need a new feature you can sell? A new version of the software, and
new release to drive up up the business in certain seasons, and so there was a huge volatility in performance, right?
And this makes a difference for basically the whole team. Because if you want to software development is a process that takes some concentration and time, and if you always have to prepare to do something which creates revenue, it's not too easy to focus on long-term development.
At the time when we started working together, I think we sometimes told me that you hated this kind of volatility and the unpredictability.
Some of my gray hair is has been created by that.
And
now it happened. My son forgot his home keys, so I have to open the door. But I'll stay with you, of course.
Yes.
Just give me a second. I already told Ryan that this might happen. Something like this might happen. Let me just open the door. Okay.
This is one of the beautiful parts of doing this live. I love this kind of stuff that just is unexpected things.
It's everything can happen. Stuff. Everything can happen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm right back.
But I think
the family is working again.
I'm not being indiscreet if I say this kind of volatility caused a lot of stress for you. It also meant that
it's a distraction.
It was basically for you as an entrepreneur. It was terror, right? And you told me that you wouldn't do this much longer. You couldn't. It made you sick, so to speak. So some more constancy. Have you accomplished a more constant business situation?
Yeah, the business situation is very.
I know the answer, of course, but I'm still asking.
He knows the answer. He knows the data. We did a business model transformation during the course of the last year. It's just a rental model. So it's just a monthly plan, and the consequence is that the revenue stream has become much more stable and much more predictable, and we know that the company is profitable since the 1st of January, which is a completely different.
It's a totally different economic situation for the company. We should highlight, I think, André, when you went live with the decentralized model in November
2024.
And you never, even before you changed the business model, you never had a non-profitable month.
There was no month with a net loss.
And that didn't exist before. Before that, it was wildly swinging with unprofitable months, and that hasn't happened since. You adopted centralized structure.
The business was also quite seasonal because it's normal that some changes in the payroll system, for example, start by the 1st of January in our client's organization. So we had to do much work in December and November, which of course had effects on the revenue. But maybe there wasn't so much work in January and February, so that typically were months where we did where the economic results were much worse.
Yes, but since you have a decentralized model with 8 periphery cells, at least you have always been profitable.
Yeah, always
comfortably. Yes, so that was a big change, I think, that you had. One might say. Profitability level has gone up, and now with the new business model that you introduced last year, in the second half of last year, I think
it was a great success. The majority of our customers switched within the first month after establishing the model, and the establishment of the model was also was not a central thing. It was done by the single periphery cells. In relation to their customers.
So let me bring the time scale together here too, because we've been talking all this about you are a software company delivering a software product in a centralized traditional organization structure before the two of you met. Then you took the model that you had been offering, did a beta transformation organizationally. So the organization was transformed, centralized, decentralized, your performance systems were changing, still developing software in the way that you had done traditionally. So that brings us, in my mind, okay, and just change the business model. You have this wonderful
one transformation. Yeah, beta transformation. Second transformation is the business model transformation, and the third transformation is the transformation to time-oriented software development. So the way how we develop software.
Yeah. And why was it that you decided to say, okay, now we've got this whole beta organization going, decentralized, federalized, democratized. Okay, but was there something that wasn't working in the way that the software was being developed? Is that a fair statement?
Something wasn't working.
There wasn't something. You could turn the question around, I think. No? So you could ask what was working, and that wasn't so much, which isn't quite untypical for software companies. That things aren't working as they should, so that results are predictable, that results are of high quality and innovative, etc. So basically, the output was not enough and not good enough.
So it's kind of a boosting quality.
I think the output in software development was also very volatile, right? You would the company would still try to deliver new releases from time to time, like once a year or twice a year or so, and there wasn't continuous output at all. Not much.
Yeah,
transparency about
there of course was a vision of delivering software continuously, which is the state-of-the-art delivery system, but we somehow didn't get there. We didn't get there fast enough. No, we always tried, but it didn't really happen because part of that has to do with this economic extractions. So that we had to change plans in order to create revenue. And part of that was also because the system we were working in, it was kind of Scrum, as it is always kind of Scrum when you ask software entrepreneurs. And it didn't work very well. So we never achieved what we planned, basically. We always planned something, but we always planned something, but we reliably never reached it. It was, for me as an entrepreneur, it was a nightmare.
Wow. So you weren't getting twice the work done in half the time with Scrum? Really?
In Scrum or without Scrum?
Yeah. There is a famous book, I'm not sure if you know it, by one of the creators of Scrum.
It didn't work that way.
It wasn't working quite that well, right? I sometimes wonder if Mr. Sutherland really believes what he writes in that book, but okay, yeah. It wasn't working quite so well, right?
It wasn't working at all, and pardon?
And I was going to say, and that was, so was it you wanted it to be better, more consistent, better software, more regularly, and you wanted a better rhythm with that, and you were working in a capacity-oriented mode, right? So this number of people can do this much in these many days. We come together, and were you in software teams at that point? When you decentralized, how was software being developed?
There was a software development department with the typical at the beginning before we transformed, because now all the software developers or the former software developers are located in periphery cells, which is something we could talk about because there were lengthy discussions about this. If it's possible, and it is possible, and it's a very good idea from our perspective to do that. But we had a classical software development department which utilized kind of Scrum. So we had the typical roles like product owner, there was a Scrum master, and there were Scrum teams. The organization was changed from time to time. There was as which is also usual. Like there was a front-end team and a back-end team, and there were feature teams, and there was just one big team, and they did refinements and sprint plannings and sprints, like 3-week sprints, and at the end of a sprint, you recognize that only half of what was planned really happened during that time.
What did you do with the other? What did you do with the other half of stuff that didn't work? Did you just carry it over into the next sprint? Did you get rid of it? What happened?
Therefore, do you know this thing called backlog?
Oh, yes, I do. Very well.
Yeah, so this is the stuff that stays in the backlog. You discuss over and over again in order to somehow get it done, but probably it never happens. And this, of course, has some reasons. The system basically didn't work for us. So, which has nothing to do with the team. From my perspective, it has something to do with the system.
Right. This is the core part of what the beta transformations are all about. Don't work with people. People are not the problem. The problem is the system and the relationship.
One of the things that I think it's fair to say that during the beta transformation, we got to this part of this. We knew that part of the solution was to dissolve the software development department or area, and to
decentralize it.
To distribute software developers in the periphery cells, right? Having one developer or two developers in each periphery cell. So you did that, right? But still, the developers started understanding the business much better, which was an improvement. But still, the software development per se, it didn't improve that much, right? The quality and the speed or the flow didn't improve much. So last summer, I think we sat together and said, this is not enough, right?
Yeah, there had to be an idea how to organize software development, because just having it had an effect, having software developers in the periphery cells. They got into other parts of the business. There were, for example, software developers discussing with clients about our subscription plans, which was unthinkable of a few months earlier. And I think most of them really enjoyed it and learned a lot. And they started developing features for their customers, which was also part of our idea of decentralizing the software development into periphery cells. But on the other hand, there had to be an idea how to work together on the basic software stack. We have, because we are not doing client-oriented software projects. We maintain and develop quite a huge software product. So, which kind of is a long-term, an eternal perspective. So there has to be a model in which we could do that. And Niels came up with this idea of time-oriented software development, and with reference to Ernst Weichselbaum. And this was a game changer.
So, okay, Niels, you were observing what was happening at Pradtke. You knew what was happening, how business operations will change with a beta organization. What light turned on for you based on what you saw at Pradtke that would say, oh, how do we now we could really do this with software, and it would be foundationally.
I think it's important to mention that I was terrified by the situation at Pradtke, because as André explained, we transformed the organization. I helped them transform the business model, moving to a better business model and so on. But I mean, André and I, we always had this discussion that development still the software development still wasn't okay. It wasn't good. So I was kind of terrified because even though I have been a member of the Agile movement for 2 decades or so, actively. And speaking of, I'm not a software developer, but I had been involved, and I worked with lots of software companies, but I never had touched the way the development process was organized, right? It's not that I was just talking, but I never had thought of something to substitute, Scrum as usual and Agile as usual. So I was a bit terrified, right? But then luckily, as André says, I had this idea of combining Weichselbaum thinking, time-oriented thinking, with software development, and I had this notion. Okay, we need an okay point, and that happened, I think, in July last year, and that was the starting point of time-oriented software development. And
so, what was your response to that?
Life was 2 months, I think, right? I had this basic idea. I think in July, maybe I told you, André, at the time. Oh, I have a hunch now. I have an idea. And
then there were the first drawings on the flip chart of the typical now famous TOS structure, like the list, the conceptualization, the okay point, and the realization. Then it got clearer and clearer, and then we started implementing it without knowing too much about it.
Yes, I also remember, André, you were on holiday when we started talking about it in the company. You knew about it, but you weren't there. And I remember the first conversation that I had at your company, André, about Toast was with Sebastian, the CTO, and co-creator of Toast, and with Mark, the other general manager at Pradtke. And Mark has this thing that he usually, when you tell him something new, when I tell him something new, he's the kind of guy who goes into the devil's advocate position and counter argues against this thing. But when we talked about TOST for time-oriented software development for the first time, he didn't do it. That was very strange. I got really nervous. I got really confused. He didn't counter argue.
It's kind of a first time as well.
Yes. So we had this conversation, and Sebastian had this face, and Mark had this face, and I thought, okay, this is easy. This might work.
And I think the start was there were 3 sessions, the last of which I also attended because my holiday was over, but where we presented the concept of time-oriented software development to all our developers, which was it was quite an interesting situation because the reactions were completely different from person to person. There were some persons celebrating which were enthusiastic about it, and there was also some persons saying that that's completely impossible. Software development can't work that way. You can't do it. Of course, we shouldn't do it.
Yes.
What are they saying now? Those folks, are they still employees, or have they realized that there is a better way than Scrum?
One of them, in fact, isn't. I think that perhaps he still thinks it's impossible while it's happening. And the others are, and what they experience is that our software development output simply is a multiple of what it was before. And that they are actually developing and even more important, delivering software to our clients. And not every 18 months, but on a day-to-day basis. So everything we do today can and typically will be shipped to our clients the same day or the day after.
Okay, so this leads me into thinking about the TOST workflow. The time-oriented software development workflow. There's a list, a curator of the list. There's a people who are authorized conceptualizers. There are a group of people who are authorized realizers. Those can be one and the same. You can realize and conceptualize differently.
Yeah.
They work in pairs generally, come together at an okay point where the concept is, okay, are we ready to realize this in 1, 2, 3 days? And then,
It's
all
a
right,
handshake, yeah.
shake your hands and then go for it. Right. So again, we were before in cells with, the names were not authorized. There weren't the specific names for conceptualizers and realizers until after you have the insight of what TOSD is. How did you go apart? Just explain a little bit about the authorization process. How did the conversations go about who's a conceptualizer, who's a realizer, and how do you come together?
Maybe I should tell
Niels?
that. You were on
You should tell
vacation.
that because I were on vacation. I can tell there were all these R's and K's when I came back in our sales structure design. And the only thing I noticed is that I didn't get any of that. I didn't get an R, which stands for realization, and I didn't get a K, which stands for conceptualization.
Yes. Yeah.
You
are not involved directly in the software development at your company. That's true, but that's fine. Okay, you cannot do everything. But yep.
No, I was going to say, well, someone has to curate the list, right? Their word
and they
backlogs.
also told me that I'm not suitable as a conceptualizer.
That was tough, I think, for you, Andre. You
That was tough, yeah.
You took that personally.
No, I didn't.
But you could still grow into it.
I got the point very quickly.
But here's what Ryan, your question is to the point. In this case, as Andre wasn't there, I think I should tell this part of the story. After we agreed, after Sebastian, Mark, and Mark, they agreed, and Andre had agreed first. I mean, Andre was the first to say, "Okay, we go time."
We can say I was the sponsor of this process.
Yes, you were the sponsor, definitely, even though you were on the vacation. But you were there, and I
you always mention that now.
and we had the initial conversation with Sebastian and Mark, and the second conversation, if I remember well, we had another conversation that was about, okay, it was clear that Sebastian had to be the list owner, let's say the person owning the list of items. That was
curating the list.
Yeah, and the curator of the list. But the question of, okay, how many developers do you really have? We had to solve that. You know, how many developers are there who can work on the list? We had to clarify that. And how many of these people should be conceptualizers? And we came up with this idea, okay, if you want to keep steady flow in a software development system, you cannot have too many people writing concepts because you want the items to have a certain consistency. So you have to limit the amount of people conceptualizing. And not all developers, we thought, we analyzed this person by person, you know, who of these developers are more inclined to conceptual thinking, who enjoys it and who does it well. And those people who enjoy it, do it well, and who had we also said a third characteristic is a certain communicative capacity, the ability to speak to other people and talk about the concept. We said that's a necessary characteristic. And so Mark and Sebastian came up with a subset of people who should be case conceptualizers. In German, it's Konzeptionierer with a K, written with a K. So the word conceptualizer in English would be with a K in German. So they are Ks. And it's a subset, maybe a third of developers are Ks. There's also Mark himself. He's a general manager. He's not a developer. He doesn't code, but he's a K. So people who are not software developer in the strict sense can also be Ks.
So people who have skills with design, architecture, big picture kind of stuff, the end to end, that have that conceptualizing mind. And then you have folks who are artisans, who are virtuosos with the coding aspect of it.
The coding, yes, but
doing coding, database, all the stuff stacked, the whole the whole piece of what constitutes a piece of working software from top to bottom and all that.
Yes.
I think we
so
should talk about what is a concept in TOST, because I think there's a specific understanding of what it is and what it shouldn't be. Therefore, conceptualizers should have specific technical expertise as well, because the concept in TOST is very down to earth, at least. Because if you want to, the idea of the OK point is that realization can happen without much discussion between the conceptualizer and the realizer. So the concept has to be very specific. And it's not only about describing what the feature should do, but what the prerequisites are. Perhaps what tables in the database are involved in this specific feature. And as the realization of TOST items only can take 1, 2, or 3 days, these concepts are not gigantic, so they are quite small, they are quite specific. They of course are semantic, so they are written in normal language. They can contain code, they will contain information about some technical aspects as database tables. They may be 1 or 2 or 3 pages long if you would print them, which you normally wouldn't do. So, but they're quite specific. It's not a 40-page Word document describing a new vision for the software.
So this brings me back into the role stuff. Again, I had former career as a business analyst kind of person. So you had business analysts working with an architecture person. We have conceptual design. We have conceptual architecture. We have a high-level design. We have a low-level design. We have a functional design. We have a technical design. And then we have all this design documentation that then gets shipped over, or in Scrum processes kind of developed through a ready point, right? So that not a definition of ready versus definition of done.
You mean?
Yeah,
So there may be
but this is fundamentally different the way I hear it. This is kind of the emergent process. You have a lot more ownership in that conceptualization.
That's a huge difference to with respect to Scrum. Because there you have these backlog items you don't know anything about till a certain point. Then you do refinements, and perhaps you think you know something about them, but in the end you don't. Then you start the sprint planning. Then you take them into the sprint, and then billions of questions arise.
You take a batch of crap from the backlog, shove it into the sprint, and turn it into something.
Which Scrum tells you nothing about how to solve it, and in the end, you won't have done anything to come closer to your goal of delivering a feature.
This brings me to something else that's very different between Scrum and TOS. I think that could get confused from a practitioner standpoint. How is the list different than a product or sprint backlog? How is that different for you at Pradtke when you went from that giant backlog to the lists that were curated by Sebastian and Matthew, did you say?
It's just Sebastian is our list owner, it's our CTO. Of course, you can, if the company is much bigger, you can have other list owners, but you have to have a list owner. So the list has to be curated, and the list is much more specific than a backlog. And this we call them items. So we have items on the list, and these items are specific. They're quite small. Some are tangible for conceptualization. The list is, as far as we know right now, not never ending.
It ends.
So we are talking. It ends. So you will start once in a while, you'll start new lists. You have kind of a goal so we, for example, have on our list 1, we currently have, there were 700 items. Currently, there are 150. So
it's a big thing. It's a big project.
It was a big thing. Yeah. It's a big technical transformation project. But we have an exact idea when it's done. So this project is done when the list is empty, and we know where we are every single day. And that's something which would be impossible with a backlog. Because in the backlog you typically have, there are 20, 30, 40 items which are described properly, and then there's all the rest.
Yeah.
All these bubbles you will have to think about in any further refinement session, and basically you know nothing about it. And that's why curating the list is such an important job. Because if the list isn't curated properly, there is lots of confusion and there's lots of waste in the process, and therefore list ownership is a very important role in the process. But the list is completely different than a backlog. So it's much more specific, it's very precise, it's curated all the time. And you don't curate only the top of it because these are the next things you might want to do. So we always look at the whole list. And of course, sometimes we discover that an item might be too big, so it has to be separated in 2 or 3 items, and we change the order of the items all the time, because it makes sense to work on the things in a specific order so they don't block each other, and that's curating the list.
And you're working at that from the whole list standpoint, that it's not as if there's this one little pathway from backlog to sprint to
No,
you're working in parallel, I would say, versus.
Yeah, it turns out that this sucks if you do that, because if you do that, hopefully I'm allowed to say that, because it really sucks.
You can say it's fucking horrible, man.
Yeah, all these words. It sucks because if you don't curate the whole list, you don't know anything.
Very well put. I think we never had this conversation. Very well put, André. Very nice. I like that. Yes. Everything breaks down if part of the list is not curated. Yeah, that's one way to fuck it all up. Yes. Very well put. Oh, André?
Because then you might have an item which is called the business intelligence interface or something like that. And it's part of a list with, let's say, 80 items, and one of these items is called the business intelligence interface. And when you reach this point, you suddenly discover that this item is not one item, it's 80 items.
Yeah.
And the hypothesis is that you can know it, you will know it in advance. It's no problem to know that in advance.
The list is like human hair on the head. You have to comb it every day, all of it, if you want to have it combed.
So you mean you just can't comb one part of the list, and I'm gonna comb this, and then I'm gonna go out and do stuff, and I come back and comb that.
And not curating the list can lead to process breakdown or slowing down. We have seen that, by the way. It has happened.
Yeah, we had that. We didn't look at the list properly and had a series of problems, serious problems, to say that. And the only way to cure that was curating list. And
so that's an art. List curation and yes. And it's one way to guarantee flow is that the items have to have the right size on the list already, or a good size. They cannot be too big. They must be understood. People will not take always the first. Conceptualizers will not always take the first item from the list. They can pick, which is very important as for self-organization. They can decide which items to take. Of course, there is a logic in the sorting. There will be some kind of logic, but still, the conceptualizers are supposed to decide by themselves which item to pick.
And realizers have some agency in that process as well, as I understand.
Sure,
of course.
That there's and there's this item on the list connects with this one, so why don't we bring this one together and have that conversation about it?
It's very important to stress that, because it might sound a little bit mechanical, but in fact it isn't. It's a highly social process. So it's there are no dailies and there are no weeklies and no retrospectives, and there's not an obligation to take the first item from the list, but there is one obligation, that it is necessary to talk to each other, which is the TOS principle, TTOE, and because because if you TTO that way, because if you don't, it won't work. So you have to. We got rid of all these communication sessions, because communication should be a daily thing,
consistent,
among colleagues,
constant, always, all the time,
about relevant aspects of our work, and which is, for example, which item should I take next as a realizer, and
should I do it alone?
You perhaps as a realizer, you could ask a conceptualizer to conceptualize a certain item because you think it's important right now, and you have good arguments about it, or it's completely okay to influence, to manipulate the process in a productive way.
So this sounds like a natural process between human beings to do judgment and conversation and shared understanding and that kind of stuff. That cannot be automated or turned into a set of prompts necessarily to do that automated software development, which is I'm getting to the point that we're talking.
Yeah, we tried it. It sucks too.
It sucks too, because so that's the thing that we've talked about now, that kind of TOS is this. Okay, we have these AI tools, we have vibe coding, we got cursor, Claude code, all this kind of stuff that's out there that allow very efficient automation of the software development process. Again, so it changes where the depth of the conversation and when it happens, but the conversation still has to happen, and there has to be a decision about this is a piece of software that should be made, and this is how it happens.
One point to be made, or 2 points. The first point is that AI tools are extremely helpful during software development. They are extremely helpful, and it's a very, very bad idea. It's a self-destructing idea to ignore them. That's the one thing. The other thing is, because I had this discussion several times, AI tooling doesn't replace process at all. You can't say we are doing vibe coding right now, and therefore we don't need any process. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. At least right now.
Once we have Skynet, things will change, right?
But then we won't need humans anymore, which is a problem on its own. But the idea that AI replaces process is not a good one, and it's specifically not a working one. And I think the vibe coding discussion is a separate one. We had a few weeks, we experimented with vibe coding, and this wasn't a good idea either, because it did what it usually does. I heard a nice expression, or I read a nice expression a few weeks ago. It's called slopware. You ever heard it?
No, but I love it.
It's the AI version of software, because if you start vibe coding, that's at least what good developers tell me, and what this article made an argument about. The code is very sloppy, so it's very easy to get to somehow 80% of what you want, and then the last 20% are sometimes nearly impossible to achieve. And in another article I read that the most used prompt in software development, vibe coding, is "please make it work."
I never heard that. And then the second most popular is help.
Nope. This doesn't work.
Perhaps,
Tell me why.
So the argument is that AI is very helpful in software development, especially if you distinguish between conceptualization and
there's one very important thing we didn't talk about with respect to TOST, and that TOST is which differentiated its from vibe coding and from Scrum. We are talking about a single piece flow system. So we don't do things in batches, and that's what happened with the vibe coding experiment. Not because it seemed so fast to write concepts with AI tools that within days we didn't have 20 or 30 concepts. We had 300.
Back to batch processing. Right.
So we had batch processing in the system, and the result was that the flow was completely blocked, and the output was approaching zero. Not because these concepts weren't extremely bad, but they weren't good enough to reach the OK point.
They weren't OK point ready, as we say, right?
They weren't OK point ready. Yeah,
they're half baked.
But it's completely okay and extremely relevant to use AI tools in the single piece flow system.
Yeah.
But in the single piece flow system, you never will reach a point where something is 80% ready and you don't really know it, for example, because something that's done is finally done. Which,
and that's
on
very
the other
important,
hand,
right? Yes.
Yeah. On the other hand, there's one more important, because quality assurance is a big thing in software development. So you produce something, and after you produce it, you don't know enough about it to ship it. So you have to start a very time-consuming and complicated testing process, which is automated or which is completely manual. Sometimes that's also the case. So you have to test it for weeks and then you ship it. And the TOST, in TOST, the quality assurance is embedded into the process. Which is quite easy because you're realizing and conceptualizing items which are realized within 1, 2, or 3 days. So the amount of work you do is you can oversee it. So you can compare the concept with the artifact you realized, and it's quite easy to identify any deviations, for example.
Mhm.
There's another thing. We do test-driven development, which is highly recommended for TOST. The concepts also contain the tests which the algorithm has to pass, which are automated in a so-called build pipeline. And the algorithm has to pass certain automated tests in order to be ready.
Production ready, to push to
That's
production.
yeah, and that's something which is highly recommended in TOST. We also do feature tests. We do integration tests, which aim.
But those are
at software as a
designed
whole.
into each. Those are designed into each item, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that. Those are there. So I want to
You
step
don't
back
produce
a
a
little bit.
big chunk of software. You have to test afterwards,
Right.
and then you get. Then you have
All sorts
trillions of observations you have to correct in another sprint, for example.
Yep.
You do it in a single piece file system. It would be like, if Toyota would say, let's produce 100,000 cars and put them into this big space, and afterwards we check if they work.
Yep.
That's what Volkswagen did for decades, and Mercedes-Benz and so on. Yeah, everywhere. Detroit car producers worked exactly that way. Only it didn't work, right?
So I want to ask. There's another question that's kind of, we're talking very much about the software development flow, the single piece flow from item concept to realized piece of software in production. In the 60-person organization that you have, how many of them are involved in that flow from item to production? Is everyone have an active part of that, or there are people who are peripheral to the software development process?
What is peripheral from your perspective?
Means that they're not, like you were saying. I'm not a C, or I'm not a K, I'm not an R, I'm a whatever.
How many
But
people are working in software development in some capacity?
So
list owner, case.
So we have 20 people which are list owners, which are conceptualizers, realizers, or 20. Now let me say 25. So 25. But in the end, of course, all the periphery cells have to do something with the software development and delivery process as well. So, which is also a social process, because you can't just deliver software and watch what happens, because you should be in a constant dialogue with your customers about what's happening right now, which is crucial for continuous deployment regimes. No? Because you don't have big releases, which you advertise, and then you have release notes and training sessions and all this stuff. You deliver software on a daily basis, which establishes the need for a different kind of communication process with your clients. Which is also much more constant than in release regimes.
Exactly, because the way I'm thinking of this in a traditional way, like enterprise software, for example, we have a whole piece of feature set that we go all the way from requirements, design, analyze, all the stage gating, and then the test phase is this giant ball of, oh, we need user testing, we need developer testing, we need integration testing. You talked about those. The thing that piques me, and why I asked the question about how many developers you have, is that user acceptance testing is one of those things that, okay, we're done with all the tech work. Now you users go figure out whether it's worth anything. But what it sounds like to me, and I want you to validate this, is that the user acceptance testing is part of the development of the concept, that you're bringing in the user need, the customer want into that feature, and involving them in the test design process. That's what it seems like. But how deeply are the users involved in the software development process? Does that make sense? Am I?
I know what you are up for. User acceptance testing is, in the way you describe it, is a terrible idea, I think, because the normal way things go is you develop software for a month or years, and in the end you ask your users what you think about it, and they tell you, oh, it sucks. Well, this isn't right and that, and then you have to correct the whole thing. Something which happened at Pradtke several times, and I don't know one software entrepreneur who doesn't know this scenario. And let's go back to the concept of the item. So you break down things in items, and of course, this breakdown process, if you do something new for your customers, it's a good idea to talk about it. There are tons of ways to do that. You can visualize it, you can describe it, but in the end, you break it down to single items, which are conceptualized, realized, and delivered. And what we deliver are typically usable, let's call them micro features. In the end, they come together as a software module, for example. But we deliver micro features, and these micro features can also be delivered not to all of the customers, but to specific customers. Perhaps to customers we talked about these features, or with whom we talked about these features, so they can use them on
immediately.
So we talk about them, and 3, 4, 5 days later, not a sprint later, not a year later, they can have a look and they can evaluate if this is helpful or if this works as expected. And the best case it does, because we did a good job of communicating about it. Otherwise, things may have to be somewhat corrected with which, but this means to create a new item. So it's not the refactoring of an existing item, because the things can only flow into one direction. That's something Niels always says, like a mantra.
The river
only flows, or the river flows only in one direction. It's, I think, also a Weichselbaum thing.
It is, yes. It's a Weichselbaum.
It's a very, very wise man, and a management philosopher, and therefore, if something has to be corrected, it's another item, and we conceptualize it, and then we realize it in 1, 2, or 3 days. That's another important thing, that items shouldn't be smaller than 1 day. It's not a very good idea to have minute items or 5-minute items or 2-hour items. If this happens, items should be, or several topics should be grouped into one item, which can be realized within 1 day.
And why is
that not efficient?
Maybe we should add, it's necessary to insist on the daily rhythm, because that's a human rhythm. The daily portion, that's also a Weichselbaum concept, We don't want
a day's work.
Cost is not about speed. It's about reliability. It's about rhythm. It's about entrainment. It's about feeling safe that during the work you get shit done. But it's not about getting shit done in 2 hours or in half an hour. It's not about speed. It's about reliability. It's about a human rhythm, and that's the daily rhythm. Yeah. So an item isn't always a feature. It can be a bunch of things that you touch, a bunch of features that you touch in an item. It can be, right? It shouldn't always often be, but it can be. It can include an item. A 1-day item might include 5 fixes to a software or something like that.
Which is a very nice way to work.
Yeah. Yes.
My wife is a veterinary doctor,
They have a daily portion,
has her,
right?
yeah, she has her own practice, and she has kind of opening hours. So the day starts at 8:30, and the practice closes at half past 7. And there is this point where there are no more animals in the waiting room.
Yes.
So,
And they are not lying on the table on open, during the night.
Which would be very bad at the end of the day if they are lying on the table. That never happens, because my wife is very professional, and she loves animals, but she has a day's work. So she starts, and then the day ends. And there was a time when I never had that feeling that I have my day's work, and then that the day ended and I had achieved something. And that's something that is built into Toast, that you have this daily portion of work and you have this daily feeling of achievement, which is quite real in continuous deployment systems, because if you did your daily portion of work and the item you realized passes all the tests, it's delivered into production, directly into production, and you know that in this moment that 300,000 software users or even more can start using it. It's somehow cool. It's quite a cool thing.
Yeah.
So again, we are at 75 minutes, but I want to add something in here that is, we're talking about the generation of the items, right? So there's something that there's a point where there's no software items, and then somebody has an idea, a person with an idea says the item happens. And that can't always be the list owner. That can't always be the curator. So there are multiple pathways into that. Traditionally, what you do is, I'm going to gather everybody into a giant workshop. We're going to have a visioning setting. We're going to generate a bunch of things in our backlog, and then we're going to go off and have 10 sprints and release plans. But this it's in TOS. It sounds like that is a process that is continuous, that the item generation process is continuous, and that happens. Am I right? And how does the item generation process work from your perspective, Andre?
We are in a special phase right now, because what we are doing is technical transformation. So we were able to define 2 lists of items for this transformation phase. And the cool thing is that we exactly know where we stand. I think that's unseen in the transformation business, that you exactly know where you stand. And we can quite precisely tell when this is done, and which will be end of March. And by the way, when we talked about the transformation process, we always talked about that it takes years. It will take 2 or 3 years, and this process will, under TOS conditions, in the end, take 6 months. Not 6 months. Around 6 months. So it's a lot faster and a lot more reliable, and it's not a black box, etc. And on the other hand, there are, of course, there is a next list. So there's a list 3, and list 3 also has a list owner, which is our CTO, and there's the easiest way to get things on the list. You shouldn't have 20 lists. By the way, this is a bad idea. That's something that it's like the backlog thing. So you have a backlog with 6,000 items, and the only thing you know is that 4,000 of them won't be realized. That's the only thing, but you don't know which, which is not a good situation. So you should talk about, which is completely fine, that you talk about the next month of work, the months of work, not only the next month, but the next month. So perhaps 3, 4, 5 months, because one excellence of TOS is that you are very reactive to things, because you can change the whole agenda within 1, 2, or 3 days. It's no problem. It's built into the process, and so the easiest way to influence the list is to talk to Sebastian. Of course, it's Sebastian's job to fill the list. So Sebastian also should talk to people, and it's a very good idea to involve clients. In the end, from my perspective, most things should be clear anyway. So for me, it's, of course, Niels will challenge me after the session, but for me, it's quite clear which the next topics on the list should be.
Which list are you talking about?
Which is also, pardon?
Which list are you talking about?
3. Perhaps also list 4. But
just to clarify, Pradtke now has 2 lists they are operating, but these lists will be exhausted at some point at the end, around the end of March. So of course, list 3 is in the air, right? Like love is in the air. So a list 3 and also a list 4 are in the air, right? But they are not being worked upon. They are drafts, so to say, but they are not in production. Not being worked
upon. We don't have them as technical artifacts in our GitHub repository, but of course we might have a notebook where things that should be on the list 3 are written down, and
so you, André, as an owner of the company, you have an idea of what list 3 is about, and an idea what list 4 is about.
Yeah,
is that?
Yeah, there are some topics we should work on, and if you look on the next month. My hypothesis is that most companies have, or at least they should have. So, because the process has a different rhythm, there's no need to talk about things, the big vision in 3 years, which is in software development right now pointless anyway. Because there's happening so much that to set up a project which delivers software in 3 years is not a good idea. But it's a very good idea. It never was, but it's a very good idea to know in which direction to go in the next month.
And that as the business owner, the founder, and the central authority, for lack of a better term, you're working on the business of the future. Niels, you and I have talked about that what the managers, the owners of the business, have the responsibility to design the system that is as it is going to evolve. There's the system that's running, and then there's the system that goes forward. And I think that's what I'm hearing in this conversation, that list 3 is, it's almost like André is the owner of that list, because André has
he won't be the owner of this
Sebastian,
list.
I won't be the owner.
But the generator. Oh, so okay. So help me understand that. So if you can clarify that for me, I'd like to understand that better.
André?
Of course, I'm a stakeholder of the list, and from my perspective, there are some topics which have to be on that list. Well, of course, using AI in development processes as tools is essential, but it's also essential that we as a company develop AI features for our clients. Of course, AI has to be on that list, and that's something, of course, I have to discuss with Sebastian.
Right.
If he best case is, as a CTO, he should have this idea on his own. So it should be completely clear for him that AI has to be a part of that list. But if it isn't, it's the moment I should talk to Sebastian.
Right.
And and ask him, hey, what's up? Why isn't AI a part of our industry?
But also there might be different certain business urgencies that would tell you, okay, we have to have that kind of list. Yeah.
We have that kind of list. Perhaps there are brilliant reasons not to have AI on that list, because AI should be on the 4th list. And the list for 3 has other purposes, for example. That might also happen, but this is also this is not, at least in the end, this is also a talk to each other process.
Yeah, that was the aha that came. Okay, so you're in conversation with Sebastian about what this list ought to be. There's that ownership, and that while you're still working on
it's
list
quite a
1
typical
and 2.
question. I got that kind of question last week during a session I had with Silke. Afterwards, many people came to me and talked about TOST, and they always asked about disaster scenarios. So what happens if the developers don't coordinate properly and things they produce don't fit to each other? So perhaps this is kind of perhaps this is a Scrum effect, because effect of other software development methods, because you experience it all the time. I don't know, because because it isn't a very good idea to produce things that don't work well with each other. You shouldn't do it, and so you should talk about. So you should talk amongst colleagues about how to avoid it.
As soon as it happens, not waiting until after the sprint review or something.
I think what's happening in the agile scene. I see this constant at every agile conference I've been in the last few years. There is a discussion about team topologies or something, and how that connects, how teams should be different if the work is more interconnected or less interconnected. But I think all that is futile nonsense, because of course the software is interconnected.
And in TOST, you can experience it every day. So you can just have a look at the software, and you can check if things work well with each other or if they don't.
And then you solve them.
Because you realize something, it takes one day, and afterwards you can have a look at it and can check if it's behaving like it should, and if it's behaving properly or in relation to the other part of the software.
The river only flows in one direction. That's the principle that explains that, right? And
all this integration testing, of course.
Now, all this other talk about interdependencies is not flow oriented, right? That's behind it. It's again the philosophy of batch processing or so on that's creeping back up. Very good point.
Wow, this has been fantastic. I can't believe we're already at 90 minutes. I feel like we could probably go another hour at least.
Yes, we should do so. We should have another.
I agree.
André, do you want to add something? Did we miss something that's worth mentioning?
Well, we of course could talk about a lot of it. I think we covered quite a lot, which is important in TOST. And I also learned a lot. Thank you very much. And I think you had some very, very, very good questions. Ryan?
Yeah.
I have to think about that too. And because TOST is there are some new possibilities, and to incorporate customers into the process, and I think that we should have another look at that.
Yes.
And
yes.
I think there are like there has to be work done in this field. But I think
you haven't reached the end point of TOST, I think, right? It's a very good.
We just started.
I loved Ryan. I loved that question as well, because it made me think, oh my God, That's certainly a point we should think about how to do. I mean, Pradtke has to think about how to do that more. Integrating how to integrate clients in daily flow software development. That's a very interesting aspect, right? And how to maybe conceptualize how to build that into Toast. We haven't thought about it. As Toast is so new, we have a development opportunity with Toast as well, of course.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I didn't get to say that I wanted to say that just came up now, is we're talking about a very fundamental beta principle about the periphery informing the center, because that's the periphery is steering, and then of course that's a conversation about what the core of the business is. From Andre, from you as the founder, that the periphery informs the center, but the center has a responsibility to innovate for whatever unarticulated need might happen in the future. So it's this whole end-to-end process of, it is a circular process, as Mary Parker Follett might say, and it's a beautiful process. So that it is beta beauty applied to the future of TOS, I think. So,
we interrupted you, Andre. You wanted to add something?
Sorry for that. I told you I would do that occasionally, so I warned you.
I did first, so
yeah. I can live with that.
But you're used to that.
Yeah, I'm used to that. Yeah.
All right. When it's over, it's over, as we say in open space. So maybe it is over for now. Thank you, Andre, for showing up here, and really, I've been so impressed and so joyful that you gave us your time and energy today. So, all right, Niels, I think we're.
This was lovely. Thank you very much for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
We didn't talk about relative targets. Maybe that's a topic for us to discuss next time.
Measurement. Yeah, we didn't talk about measurement.
No? Reporting?
Yeah, reporting, measurement,
all
that stuff.
It's a good topic.
Yeah. And why a fast close makes all the difference, maybe.
All right. Okay, so I'm trying to play the music to play us off.
Yes,
we can go plan stuff in the future. Thanks everyone out there who've been watching for the precious gift of your time and attention. Be more beta, be love. We're in this love together, as Algero would say. So check you later.